The humidity in Kowloon is a physical weight that presses down on you before your eyes even open. It is 6 in the morning in 1974, and the air inside our partitioned room is heavy, smelling of stale tiger balm, damp concrete, and the lingering, sweet smoke of the mosquito coil that burned itself into a spiral of gray ash during the night. I wake not to an alarm clock, but to the roar of a jet engine. We live in Kowloon City, directly under the flight path of Kai Tak Airport. The sound is a terrifying, chest-rattling vibration that shakes the metal window frame and rattles the glass panes in their putty. I can feel the thrust of the engines in the floorboards beneath my back as the plane screams overhead, low enough that I could count the rivets on its belly if I looked out. The single light bulb hanging from the ceiling sways on its cord. My back is stiff. I sleep on a bamboo mat laid over a hard wooden board. In this climate, a mattress is a sponge for sweat, a breeding ground for mold. The bamboo is unforgiving against the spine, but it allows air to circulate beneath the body. I peel my skin away from the polished bamboo slats. My wife is already up. The space beside me is empty, save for the indentation of her head on the hard buckwheat pillow. I sit up and rub my face. My hands are rough, the skin on my fingertips calloused and thick, marked by a constellation of small white scars from decades of touching hot glass. I slide my feet into a pair of red plastic slippers. The rubber strap bites slightly into the top of my foot. The floor is green linoleum, peeling at the corners to reveal the gray cement underneath. Our home is a single room within a larger flat shared by 3 other families. The walls are thin plywood partitions that stop a foot short of the ceiling to allow airflow. Privacy is a fiction here. I can hear the neighbor, Old Man Chan, hacking up phlegm in the next cubicle. I can hear the sizzle of oil from the communal kitchen down the hall. I grab my wash basin, a white enamel bowl with a chipped blue rim, and my towel. The towel is a good morning towel, thin white cotton with the words "Good Morning" printed in red English letters across the ends. It is rough and absorbent. I walk down the narrow, dim corridor to the bathroom. The air here smells of wet drains and carbolic soap. The bathroom is wet. It is always wet. The floor is tiled in small white hexagons, slick with the water of the morning rush. There is no hot water tap. I turn the brass handle, and the water coughs out of the pipe, lukewarm and smelling faintly of chlorine. I fill the basin. I splash the water onto my face, the shock of it waking my nerves. I pick up my toothbrush, the bristles splayed and worn, and dip it into a tin of powder. Toothpaste is a luxury. Tooth powder is practical. It tastes of chalk and peppermint, gritty against my tongue. I scrub hard, spitting the white foam into the drain in the floor. Shaving is a ritual of caution. The mirror above the sink is desilvered around the edges, brown spots eating away at my reflection. I use a safety razor, the metal handle heavy in my wet hand. The blade is dulling, but I must make it last another week. I drag the steel across my jaw, listening to the rasp of stubble being cut. I rinse the blade, watching the gray hairs swirl into the drain. Returning to the room, I dress. The choice of clothing is dictated by the heat of the fires. I will work in front of all day. I put on a white cotton singlet. It is ribbed, tight against the chest, designed to soak up sweat. Over this, I pull on a pair of gray trousers. The fabric is a polyester blend, scratchy and cheap, but durable. It holds a crease well and does not stain easily. I fasten the metal hook at the waist. I do not wear a belt. Instead, I use a strip of fabric tied tightly. Belts with metal buckles get too hot in the workshop. I pull on a short-sleeved button-down shirt. It is pale blue, almost translucent with wear. I leave the top 2 buttons undone. The air in the room is already stifling, trapped between the concrete walls. I sit on the edge of the bed and pull on my socks. They are thin nylon, sheer and dark. Finally, I step into my shoes. They are black canvas slip-ons with rubber soles, the kind worn by laborers and martial artists alike. They grip the floor well, which is essential when carrying fragile tubes of glass. My wife, Mei-ling, enters the room carrying 2 bowls. She has been up for an hour boiling rice porridge in the communal kitchen. She sets the bowls on our small folding table. The table has a laminate top printed with a fake wood grain pattern. "Eat," she says. Her voice is soft. The congee is white and thick, broken rice grains suspended in starchy water. She has added a century egg, chopped into jagged black and amber chunks. I stir it with my porcelain spoon. The smell is comforting, sulfurous from the egg, earthy from the rice. I sprinkle white pepper powder over the surface until it forms a gray dust. I eat quickly. The congee is scalding hot, but I am used to heat. I lift the bowl to my lips and shovel the porridge into my mouth with the spoon and chopsticks. The texture is creamy, interrupted by the gelatinous bounce of the preserved egg. We also share a stick of yao yao guai, deep-fried dough. It is greasy, salty, and crisp. I dip it into the congee, watching the oil slicks form on the surface of the white porridge. I wash it down with tea. It is not delicate tea. It is strong black tea brewed until it is bitter, then mixed with a generous pour of evaporated milk from a tin with a red and white cow on the label. The milk is thick and creamy, turning the tea a rich tan color. The sugar hits my blood almost instantly. This is fuel. I will be late tonight, I tell Mei-ling. The Golden Phoenix nightclub sign must be finished. She nods, taking my empty bowl. Be careful with the mercury. I grab my bag. It is a coarse canvas satchel containing my lunch tin and a pack of cigarettes. I step out of the apartment and into the stairwell. The building has no elevator. We live on the 5th floor. I descend the concrete stairs, the banister sticky with the humidity. The stairwell smells of incense burned at the small red shrines that sit outside every door, guarding the thresholds. Stepping out onto the street level is like stepping into a riot. It is 7 in the morning, and Kowloon is screaming with life. The sensory overload is instantaneous. The air is blue with exhaust fumes. A red Toyota Crown taxi idles at the curb, its diesel engine clattering like a box of rocks. A double-decker bus rumbles past, plastered with advertisements for watches and cognac. The pavement is crowded. Women in floral samfu suits carry red plastic market lamps, haggling loudly with a fruit vendor. I walk towards the workshop. My route takes me through a wet market. The ground is slick with water and fish blood. I step carefully in my canvas shoes. The smell is intense raw meat, gutted fish, cilantro, and the metallic tang of blood. A butcher stands behind a wooden block, a cigarette dangling from his lip, swinging a heavy cleaver onto a side of pork. The sound of the chop is dull and wet. I pass a bamboo scaffolding structure that hugs the side of a new building going up. The bamboo poles are lashed together with black nylon strips. Workers climb it like spiders. No safety harnesses, just balance and grit. This city is constantly shedding its skin, tearing down the old stone tenements to build high-rises. I arrive at the workshop, Namwa Neon. It is located on the ground floor of a tenement building in Sham Shuipo. The metal shutter is half open. I stoop to go under it and push it the rest of the way up. The metal slats crash into the housing box with a deafening rattle that echoes down the street. The workshop smells of gas and dust. It is a long, narrow space, cluttered with the debris of our trade. Racks of glass tubes line the walls, clear glass, colored glass, and glass coated on the inside with white phosphor powder. The floor is concrete, stained with black burns, and scattered with shards of broken glass that glitter in the morning light, filtering through the open front. My apprentice, Ah Kyung, is already there. He is sweeping the floor with a straw broom. He is young, 18, skinny as a rail, wearing a dirty undershirt. Sifu, he greets me, bowing his head slightly. Did you check the gas tanks? I ask, tossing my bag onto a workbench. Yes, Sifu. The propane is full. The air compressor is running. I nod and walk to my station. My workbench is a heavy wooden table, scarred and black from years of burns. In the center sits my primary tool, The crossfire burner. It is a heavy brass instrument with gas and air lines feeding into it. Beside it lies the ribbon burner, a long strip of fire used for heating longer sections of glass. I take off my blue shirt and hang it on a nail on the wall. I am down to my white singlet. I put on a leather apron. It is heavy, stiff with age, and covered in burn marks. It covers my chest and thighs, protection against exploding glass. I reach for my glasses. They are not for vision correction. They are didymium safety glasses. The lenses are a pale purple color. They filter out the bright orange sodium flare that occurs when glass is heated, allowing me to see the glass itself as it softens. Without them, I would be blind to the temperature of the material. Bring me the sketch for the phoenix, I order. Ah Kyung unrolls a large sheet of brown butcher paper onto the table. On it is a full-scale charcoal drawing of a phoenix, its wings spread wide. The lines are sweeping and complex. The bird is to be made of red neon for the body and gold for the wings. I run my hand over the paper. The charcoal comes off on my fingertips. This is the template. I must bend the glass to match these lines exactly. The tolerance is less than 2 millimeters. If the glass does not lie flat against the paper, it will break when we mount it. I select a long tube of clear glass, 12 millimeters in diameter. I inspect it for flaws, holding it up to the light. Bubbles or cracks will cause the tube to shatter under heat. It is perfect. I pick up a rubber hose attached to a cork. I plug one end of the glass tube with the cork and place the other end of the hose in my mouth. This is the blow hose. It allows me to maintain air pressure inside the tube while the glass is soft, preventing the walls from collapsing inward when I bend it. I turn the valve on the crossfire burner. Gas hisses out. I strike a flint sparker. The fire erupts with a woof sound, a fierce blue flame with a sharp inner cone. The heat hits my face instantly. It is a dry, aggressive heat. The temperature in the cone is over 1,000 degrees. I hold the glass tube in both hands, rotating it constantly. I lower it into the blue flame. I watch the glass through my purple lenses. The orange flare is cut away, and I see the glass turn a dull red, then a bright cherry red. It begins to soften, yielding to gravity. I keep rotating. If I stop for a second, the glass will melt unevenly and kink. It feels like taffy in my hands now. I take it out of the flame and quickly bring it down to the charcoal drawing. With a fluid motion, I bend the glass to match the curve of the phoenix's neck. As I bend, I blow gently into the rubber hose in my mouth. My cheeks puff out. The air pressure keeps the diameter of the bend consistent with the straight sections. If I blow too hard, it bubbles out. If I blow too soft, it flattens. It is a rhythm, a dance between my hands, my lungs, and the cooling glass. The glass hardens in seconds. I lift it. It is a perfect curve. Good, I whisper to myself. I return the glass to the fire for the next bend. The workshop begins to warm up. The air compressor in the corner thumps rhythmically, a mechanical heartbeat. Thud, thud, thud. Ah Kyung is working on the electrodes at the side bench. He is wrapping thin copper wires around the metal shells that will cap the ends of the tubes. I can hear the snip of his wire cutters and the scrape of metal on metal. Sifu, Ah Kyung asks, not looking up. Why do we use the clear glass for the red light? I keep rotating the glass in the flame. Physics, Ah Kyung. The gas we put inside is neon. Neon glows red naturally. We don't need colored glass. But for the wings, we want gold. Neon doesn't glow gold. So we use helium. No, we use argon gas, which glows blue inside a yellow glass tube. Yellow and blue make green, he guesses. I sigh. No, we aren't painting with watercolors. We use clear glass coated with phosphor. But for gold, listen, argon with mercury glows blue. If we put that in yellow glass, we get bright green. For the gold wings, we will use clear glass coated with a yellow phosphor powder and fill it with neon. The red gas through the yellow powder makes gold. I pull the glass from the fire and make a sharp 90-degree bend, blowing sharply. The glass sets. The work is physical. My arms are held up constantly. My neck is craned forward. The heat dries out my eyes. I can smell the singed hair on my knuckles. By 9 in the morning, the workshop is an oven. The sun is beating down on the street outside, and the burners inside are roaring. I am sweating profusely. My singlet is soaked, clinging to my back. I pause to drink from my thermos. It contains tea, now lukewarm. I look at the phoenix taking shape on the table. It is a skeleton of glass, fragile and cold. It looks nothing like fire yet. That comes later. I pick up a file. It is a triangular metal file. I need to cut the excess glass off the end of the tube. I make a single, sharp scratch on the glass surface. Then I hold the tube and snap it away from the scratch. The glass breaks cleanly with a sharp click. Prepare the pumping system, I tell Ah Kyung. This is the most dangerous part. We have to evacuate all the air from the tube and replace it with the noble gas. But first, we have to bombard the tube. I weld the electrodes onto the ends of the phoenix. We hook the glass spurred up to the vacuum pump. The pump chugs, a lower, gurgling sound compared to the compressor. I watch the mercury gauge. The needle drops. When the vacuum is high enough, I flip the switch on the bombarder transformer. This is a high voltage transformer, 20,000 volts. The electricity arcs through the vacuum inside the tube. The glass lights up, but not with the clean light of a finished sign. It glows a dirty, angry purple. The heat is intense. The glass tube itself gets hot, over 200 degrees Celsius. This burns off all the impurities inside the glass dust, water vapor, oil from my breath. The transformer hums, a loud, menacing buzz that vibrates in my teeth. The smell of ozone fills the shop. It smells like a thunderstorm, sharp and metallic. Watch the temperature. I shout over the noise of the transformer. Ah Kyung holds a piece of paper near the glass. If the paper chars, it is hot enough. If it burns, it is too hot and the glass will collapse. The paper turns brown. Ready, Ah Kyung yells. I kill the power. The hum dies. I open the stopcock on the neon flask. The gas rushes into the vacuum of the tube. The pressure gauge jumps. I seal the tube with the hand torch, melting the glass tip shut. Now the moment of truth. I hook the finished unit to the test transformer. I flip the switch. The phoenix ignites. It is blinding. The red is not just a color. It is a physical force. It is the color of arterial blood, vibrant and alive. It buzzes softly. The light floods the dim workshop, reflecting off the racks of glass, the sweat on my face, and the awe in Ah Kyung's eyes. For a moment, I forget the heat, the back pain, and the noise of the street outside. I have trapped lightning in a bottle. I have bent light with my hands. It is good, I say, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. Now start bending the wings. We have 6 hours before the nightclub owner arrives. I light a cigarette. The smoke mixes with the ozone and the gas fumes. I lean against the workbench, watching the red light hum. This is the morning. The day has barely begun. The crossfire burner roars before me, a dual-headed dragon of blue flame that consumes the silence of the workshop. It is the only sound that matters right now. The rest of Kowloon, the shouting hawkers on Nathan Road, the rattle of the tram lines, the distant pile driving of the subway construction, fades into a dull, gray hum. Here at the bench, the world shrinks down to a 12mm glass tube, and the invisible line between solid and liquid. I adjust the gas valve with my hip, nudging the lever without looking. The flame hisses, sharpening from a bushy yellow to a focused, aggressive needle of azure. It is hot, incredibly hot. The heat does not just sit on the skin, it pushes against you, a physical weight in the stagnant air of the shop. My white cotton singlet, already translucent with sweat since mid-morning, clings to my ribs like a second skin. I pick up the glass tube. It is cold, smooth, and dusted with the faint white residue of the phosphor powder coating the inside. This one is for sauna sign down in Wan Chai. The character is complex, requiring tight, aggressive angles. I place the glass into the fire. You do not force the glass. If you force it, it kinks. If you hesitate, it shatters. You must wait for the surrender. I rotate the tube constantly, a steady, rolling rhythm between my thumb and forefingers. The motion must be continuous. If I stop for even a second, gravity will pull the molten glass down, ruining the wall thickness. I watch the color. It shifts from clear to a dull red, then to a glowing, angry orange. The rigid structure gives way. It suddenly feels like stiff taffy in my hands. Now, I lift the tube from the flame. The rubber blow hose is already clenched between my teeth, tasting of stale rubber and the bitter tang of my own saliva. I blow gently, a tiny puff of air, just enough to keep the internal diameter of the tube open as I bend the glass back on itself. My hands move with a muscle memory honed over 20 years. I fold the molten section, creating a sharp 90-degree turn. I blow again. The glass cools rapidly, freezing in its new shape. It is perfect. No wrinkles on the inside curve. No thinning on the outside. I wipe my forehead with a rag that is more grease than fabric. The air in the workshop is thick with the smell of town gas and the metallic tang of heated silica. It is a smell that settles in the back of the throat and stays there. My apprentice, Ah-Kyung, is sweeping glass shards in the corner. He watches me from the periphery. He is 19, skinny as a chopstick, with hair that is too long and a restless energy that makes him clumsy. Watch closely, I tell him, my voice raspy. I do not shout. In the trade, if the sifu shouts, you have already failed. I point to the burner with the hot glass. You respect the fire, or it takes your fingerprints. He nods, terrified and eager. He brings me the next pattern, a sheet of asbestos paper with the design drawn in charcoal. It is the bottom stroke of the character for water, a sweeping, curved hook. I return to the flame. The heat is accumulating in the room. The ventilation fan in the window rattles in its frame, its blades caked in years of black dust, doing little to move the heavy, humid air of the Hong Kong summer. It is 32 degrees outside, but near the crossfire, it feels like 50. My forearms are speckled with tiny burn scars, white dots against tanned skin, a map of errors made years ago. For the next hour, I am a machine. Heat, rotate, bend, blow. Heat, rotate, bend, blow. The glass becomes an extension of my nervous system. I am making the skeleton of the city's night. By the time the sun is high enough to cut through the grime of the high windows, I have finished 3 characters. My hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the specific fatigue of fine motor control held under tension. It is 1 o'clock. The hunger hits me not as a desire for food, but as a sudden drop in focus. I kill the gas. The roar dies, leaving a ringing silence that is quickly filled by the aggressive noise of the street below. Food, I say to Ah Kyung. We wash our hands in the cast iron sink. The water is tepid and smells of rust. I scrub the black residue of the burners from my palms with a block of coarse soap, watching the gray suds swirl down the drain. We step out of the workshop and into the stairwell. The building is a pre-war tenement, a tonglao with high ceilings and peeling paint that flakes like dead skin. The stairwell smells of incense from the shrines by the doors and the damp, earthy rot of old concrete. We emerge onto the street, and the sensory assault is immediate. The humidity hits like a wet towel across the face. The sun is blinding, reflecting off the chrome bumpers of the red taxis and the glass windows of the jewelry shops. The noise is a chaotic symphony. The shouted prices of fruit vendors, the clatter of mahjong tiles from open balconies, the grinding gears of a double-decker bus struggling under its load. We walk 3 blocks to the Dai Pai Dong, tucked into a narrow alleyway between 2 looming residential towers. It is a green-painted metal structure, an open-air kitchen where the woks are fired by roaring kerosene burners that sound like jet engines. We find a folding table with a melamine top, worn smooth and greasy. We sit on plastic stools that are barely 6 inches off the ground. My knees come up high, and I lean forward, claiming my space. I order for both of us roast goose rice with salted egg, iced lemon tea, heavy on the sugar. The food arrives on stamped metal plates that are dented and scarred. The goose is glistening, the skin a deep, burnished mahogany, dripping with fat. The rice is a mountain of broken grains, soaked in a dark, savory soy sauce. I pick up my chopsticks and eat with efficiency. The first bite is an explosion of texture. The crunch of the roast skin, the layer of rendered fat, the dense meat, the saltiness of the sauce. It is heavy fuel. We need the salt to replace what we sweat out. I break the salted egg, the yolk crumbling like orange chalk, rich and grainy, mixing it into the rice. Ah Kyung eats like a wolf, head down, shoveling rice into his mouth. Slow down, I say, tapping the table with my chopstick. You eat too fast. You get lazy in the afternoon. He swallows hard. Sorry, Sifu. Old man Chung sits at the next table. He is a metal bender who makes the iron cages that hold my glass signs. His hands are thick, his fingers permanently stained black from iron oxide. He is smoking a cigarette while he eats, the ash dangerously close to his bowl of noodle soup. Hot today, Chung grunts. I nod, chewing a piece of gailan, the Chinese kale crunchy and bitter, cutting through the grease of the goose. The devil's weather. Chung leans in, lowering his voice, though in the din of the alleyway, it makes little difference. You hear about the rent hike on Shanghai Street. The landlord wants another 20%. I pause. The rice sits heavy in my stomach. 20%. It is the story of this city. We build the lights that make it beautiful, but the ground beneath our feet gets more expensive every day. He will push us all to the new territories, I say, taking a long pull of the iced tea. The cold liquid shocks my teeth and washes away the coating of grease in my mouth. Jung spits a piece of gristle onto the concrete floor. Let him try. My press is too heavy to move. I stay until the building falls down. We finish eating. The meal is not a social event. It is a refueling stop. I light a cigarette, an unfiltered Camel. The smoke mixes with the fumes of the kerosene stoves and the smell of the open drain running along the side of the alley. I watch the people passing by. Office girls in polyester miniskirts, laborers with towels around their necks, old women pushing carts of cardboard. Everyone is moving fast. If you stop moving in Hong Kong, you fall behind. I stub the cigarette out on the metal leg of the table. Back to it. The walk back to the workshop is slower. The heat of the afternoon is heavier now, a oppressive blanket. We climb the 4 flights of stairs. The darkness of the stairwell, a relief for my eyes. Inside the shop, the air is still. It has not cooled down. Now begins the most dangerous part of the day. The glass bending is art, but the processing is chemistry and violence. I move to the pumping station. This is a complex manifold of glass tubes, stopcocks, and vacuum gauges mounted on a wooden board. It looks like the inside of a mad scientist's laboratory. I take the sign I bent earlier, the sauna character, and splice it onto the system. I use a hand torch to fuse the glass of the sign to the glass of the pump. The seal must be hermetic. A single microscopic leak, and the sign is dead. Ah Kyung stands back. He knows not to touch anything here. I turn on the vacuum pump. It begins to chug, a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The sound vibrates through the wooden floorboards. I watch the mercury gauge. The column of silver liquid begins to rise, indicating the air is being sucked out of the tube. But a vacuum is not enough. The glass walls are full of impurities, water vapor, microscopic dust, oils from my hands. If I fill it with gas now, the sign will dim in a week. I must scrub the inside of the tube with fire. I reach for the heavy copper switch of the bombarder. This is a massive transformer, sitting like a brooding beast in the corner. It steps the city voltage up to 20,000 volts. Stand clear, I warn. I throw the switch. A violent crackle fills the room. The glass tube, which was clear a moment ago, suddenly ignites with a blinding, ghostly white light. It is not the gentle glow of a finished sign. This is the plasma of burning air and impurities. The transformer hums with a deep, menacing vibration that I feel in my fillings. The wire electrodes at the ends of the tube begin to glow cherry red. The heat is intense. The glass itself becomes scorching hot, hot enough to vaporize the filth clinging to the inside walls. I watch the color of the light. It shifts from cloudy white to a pale violet as the pressure drops, and the impurities are burned away. This is the moment of highest tension. If I bombard it too long, the glass will melt and collapse inward from the vacuum. If I do not bombard it enough, the sign will be dirty. I have to read the color of the plasma. I have to listen to the sound of the pump. I hold my hand near the tube, feeling the radiation of heat. It is ready. I cut the power. The blinding light dies instantly. The room feels darker than before. Now at the fill, I open a small glass cock connecting a flask of red neon gas. I watch the pressure gauge. I let in just 12 millimeters of mercury pressure. It is a tiny amount of gas, barely a breath. I seal the tube with the hand torch, melting the glass connection until it pulls apart. The sign is now a sealed vessel, a closed universe. Now the test. I clip the leads of a small testing transformer to the electrodes. I flip the switch. The tube ignites. It is no longer the angry white of the bombardment. It is a deep, rich, liquid red. It is the color of arterial blood, the color of a lucky envelope, the color of Hong Kong at night. The light is steady and strong. It hums quietly, a content sound. I inspect the curves. The light flows around the sharp corners I bent hours ago without breaking. It is consistent. Ah Kyung steps closer, his face illuminated by the red glow. It makes him look older, casting deep shadows in his eye sockets. "Beautiful Sifu," he whispers. "It is passable," I correct him, though I feel a tightness in my chest that is pride. It will last 10 years, maybe 20. I disconnect the sign and set it on the cooling rack. My hands are black with graphite and dust. My shirt is soaked through. My back aches from hunching over the fires. The afternoon wears on. The sun moves across the sky, changing the angle of the shadows in the workshop. We repeat the process. Blue argon gas for the next one, requiring a drop of mercury to be rolled into the tube. The mercury is heavy and liquid, a silver bead that I must carefully shake into the trap. It is poison, I know this. We all know this. We handle it with care, but we handle it every day. It is the cost of the blue light. By 4 o'clock, the workshop is filled with finished tubes. A dragon's head in green, a massage parlor sign in pink, a pawn shop bat in orange. The noise from the street has changed. The frantic energy of the lunch rush has settled into the steady, enduring grind of the late afternoon. The school children are out now, their high-pitched voices drifting up from the pavement. I pick up a file to smooth the edge of a new glass tube. The metal bites into the glass with a gritty rasp. I look at my hands. The skin is hard, the fingerprints worn smooth by the heat and the handling of hot glass. These are not the hands of a scholar. They are the hands of a maker. I look out the window. Across the street, a man is installing a sign I made last week. It is a massive, vertical projecting sign for a nightclub. He is suspended on a bamboo scaffold 40 feet in the air, held up by nothing but dried grass ties and courage. He wrestles the glass tube into the metal clips. I watch him connect the high-voltage cable. He signals to someone inside the building. The sign flickers, then catches. A brilliant electric purple slashes through the gray grime of the building facade. Even in the daylight, it has power. That is my work. That is my sweat, my breath, trapped inside a glass tube, burning with 20,000 volts. I turn back to the bench. The crossfire is waiting. There is more glass to bend. The sun is dipping, and the city will need its light soon. I strike a match to reignite the pilot light. The flame jumps to life, hungry and blue. Next one, I say to Ah Kyung. He hands me the glass. We begin again. The air inside the workshop at 2 in the afternoon is not just hot. It is a physical weight that sits on my shoulders. We have returned from lunch. The taste of oily rice and roasted pork still coating the roof of my mouth. But the brief respite of the tea house is already a fading memory. Here, on the 4th floor of this Kowloon tenement, the heat does not ventilate. It accumulates. It radiates from the concrete walls, rises from the floorboards, and most intensely, pours from the open mouths of the gas burners. I wipe my forehead with a rag that ceased to be clean 3 hours ago. It is stained with soot and grease, smelling of burnt hair and town gas. My shirt, a synthetic blend that was fashionable when I bought it, but is a torture device in this weather, clings to my back like a second skin. There is no breeze coming through the metal-framed windows, only the relentless roar of traffic from Nathan Road below, and the occasional shadow of a jetliner descending toward Kai Tak. The engines screaming so loud they rattle the unbent glass tubes stored in the overhead racks. The afternoon stretch is the hardest. The morning energy is gone, and the anticipation of the evening whistle is too far away to offer comfort. This is the long drag. This is where mistakes happen. My station is a cluttered altar of fire and glass. Before me lies the pattern for the job, a massive sign for a sauna on Jordan Road. The design is intricate. a flowing script of traditional characters that requires tight, aggressive curves. I am working on the bottom radical of the character for water. It looks simple on the paper 3 strokes, but in glass, it is a test of rhythm and lung capacity. I pick up a length of 12mm clear glass tubing. It is cool and smooth, dusted with a fine layer of powder. I check the ends, ensuring they are cut clean, and insert the rubber cork of my blow hose into one end. The other end of the hose goes into my mouth. This is the umbilical cord. The glass and I are now a single pneumatic system. I kick the pedal near my foot. The crossfire burner ignites with a low, aggressive roar. The blue flames are invisible against the bright sunlight streaming in from the window. But the heat is instant. It punches me in the face, drying my eyes. I lower the glass into the fire. This is the moment where time warps. You cannot rush the glass, nor can you wait for it. You have to feel it surrender. I rotate the tube constantly, my fingers rolling the cold ends, while the center glows a fierce, angry orange. If I stop rotating for even a second, the glass will sag unevenly, the wall will thin, and the tube will shatter when it cools. My eyes narrow, ignoring the sting of the heat. I am watching for the wobble. The glass begins to soften, turning from a rigid solid into something resembling thick honey. I can feel the change through the hose in my mouth. The pressure shifts. Now, I lift the glass from the flame. I have perhaps 3 seconds of true malleability. I place the glowing section over the asbestos pattern sheet lying on the workbench. My left hand anchors the tube. My right hand bends it upward, forcing the molten glass to follow the charcoal line drawn on the paper. Simultaneously, I blow. It is not a hard blow, like extinguishing a candle. It is a pressurized puff, held in the cheeks, controlled by the diaphragm. As I bend the glass, the outer wall stretches and wants to collapse inward, to flatten out. My breath pushes the walls back out, maintaining the perfect cylindrical shape of the tube, even as it corners a 90-degree turn. I hold the position. My lungs burn. My fingers are inches from glass that is 600 degrees. The heat radiates into my knuckles, a dull, cooking ache that I have learned to ignore over 15 years. The glass stiffens. The orange glow fades to a dull red, then back to transparency. I exhale, the spent air rushing back out through the hose. 1 stroke down, 300 to go. I place the bent tube on the cooling rack and roll my neck. The vertebrae crack, a sound like dry twigs snapping. Across the room, Sifu, the master, is working on a massive piece of red ruby glass. He is 60 years old, skeletal and shirtless, his skin the texture of old leather. He works in silence, a cigarette permanently glued to his lower lip. The ash defies gravity, growing longer and longer until it inevitably falls onto his work, which he simply blows away with a puff of air without breaking his rhythm. The atmosphere in the shop shifts as 3 o'clock approaches. The sun moves, cutting sharp geometric angles across the dusty floor. Dust motes dance in the shafts of light, swirling in the turbulence created by the oscillating fan that rattles in the corner. The fan does little to cool us. It merely pushes the hot air and the smell of ozone around the room. I pick up the next section. This involves a splice. I need to join 2 tubes together to make the long vertical stroke of the character. This is delicate work. If the seal is not perfect, the gas will leak, the vacuum will fail, and the sign will be dead. I heat the ends of both tubes until they are molten lips. I bring them together in the flame, pushing them gently to fuse the glass, then pulling slightly to thin the joint. I blow, puffing the joint out to match the diameter of the tube, then heat it again to smooth it. It requires a steady hand, but my hands are trembling slightly from low blood sugar and fatigue. I focus. I lock my elbows against my ribs. I force my breathing to slow. The world narrows down to that single point of blue flame and melting silica. I am not in Hong Kong anymore. I am not in a hot room. I am in the glass. The splice holds. It is clean and visible. A small victory in a day of 1,000 repetitions. By 4 o'clock, the physical toll is undeniable. My legs ache from standing on the concrete floor. My lips taste of rubber and salt. The fingers on my left hand are scorched, the skin shiny and tight where I touched a tube that wasn't quite cool enough. We don't use gloves. You can't feel the glass through gloves. You pay for the precision with your skin. Ah Kyung, the apprentice, drops a box of electrodes. The crash is deafening in the focused silence. Shards of glass scatter across the cement like ice. Sifu stops his burner. The silence that follows is heavier than the noise. He turns slowly, his eyes dark and unimpressed. He says nothing. He doesn't have to. Ah Kyung is already on his knees, sweeping the shards with a trembling hand, murmuring apologies that get lost in the humidity. I catch Ah Kyung's eye and give him a small, tired nod. We have all been there. The fatigue makes you clumsy. The heat makes you stupid. I take a moment to drink from my thermos. The tea is lukewarm and bitter, having steeped for 6 hours, but the liquid is necessary. I look out the window. The light outside is changing, turning a bruised purple as the smog thickens with the evening rush. The city is waking up. The hawkers are setting up their stalls on the street below. The clatter of metal poles and the shouting of prices drifting up to us. This is the magic hour, but for us, it is the hour of the headache. The fumes from the gas burners contain combustion byproducts that accumulate in the blood. We call it the gas head, a dull, throbbing pressure behind the eyes that no aspirin can touch. I return to the bench for the final assembly. The tubes are bent. Now they must be pumped. I take the finished section, a complex series of twists that spells out sauna, and carry it to the pumping station. This is the heart of the alchemy. I fuse the glass tube to the vacuum manifold. I grease the stopcocks with vacuum grease, a sticky, translucent substance that gets everywhere. I flip the switch on the vacuum pump. The machine chugs into life, a rhythmic thump, thump, thump that vibrates through the floor. It is sucking the air out of the tube, creating a void. While the pump runs, I attach the high voltage leads to the electrodes at the ends of the sign. This is the bombarding process. We have to heat the glass and the metal electrodes to extreme temperatures to release the impurities trapped in the microscopic pores of the material. I turn the dial on the transformer. A violent violet arc of electricity rips through the glass tube. It crackles and hisses, a snake of raw energy seeking a path. The glass heats up instantly. It becomes too hot to touch. The impurities, dust, moisture, oil are vaporized by the heat and sucked away by the vacuum pump. I watch the color of the arc. It starts pink, then turns a muddy gray. Then slowly, as the tube cleans out, it becomes a steady, pale blue. This is the dangerous part. If I touch the glass now, the high voltage will stop my heart. If I let it get too hot, the glass will implode under the vacuum pressure. It is a game of brinkmanship. I watch the millimeter gauge, watching the needle drop lower and lower, measuring the nothingness inside the tube. When the needle hits the bottom, I cut the voltage. The silence rushes back in. Now the injection. I manipulate the stopcocks, isolating the pump. I open the valve to the gas flask. For this sign, we are using neon gas, pure red neon. I let a specific amount of gas into the tube, 12 millimeters of pressure. No more, no less. If there is too much gas, the sign will be dim and struggle to light. If there is too little, it will burn out in a month. I seal the tube, melting the glass connection to the manifold and pulling it away. The tube is now a sealed vessel, containing nothing but low-pressure neon gas. I need to test it. I pick up the Tesla coil, a handheld device that looks like a black wand. I press the trigger and touch the tip to the glass. The reaction is instantaneous. A beam of brilliant, liquid red fire shoots through the tube. It is not just a light, it is a living color. It is the color of blood, of embers, of the city's heartbeat. It cuts through the dusty, gray afternoon of the workshop like a laser. For a second, the fatigue vanishes. The backache, the sweat, the burnt fingers, they all recede. There is only the light. It is perfect. The The curves I bent with my breath are smooth and fluid, carrying the red plasma without a flicker. Sifu grunts from his corner. He has seen the flash of red reflected in the window glass. It is his way of saying good. The sun has dipped below the skyline of the buildings opposite. The workshop is falling into shadow, lit only by the blue jets of the burners and the occasional flash of a sign being tested. The transition is profound. We have spent the day fighting the sun and the heat, and now, as the natural light fails, our work begins to take over. I begin the cleanup process. The floor is littered with offcuts of glass, sharp little daggers that will slice through the sole of a shoe if you aren't careful. I sweep them into a metal dustpan, the sound like wind chimes jangling. I wipe down the tools, the brass swivels, the rubber hoses, the carbon block used for flattening hot glass. Everything has its place. In a shop this cramped, disorder is a safety hazard. Ah Kyung is scrubbing the flux off the workbench. He looks exhausted, his young face smeared with soot, his eyes red-rimmed. He is 17. I remember being 17. I remember crying in the toilet because I couldn't get a curve right, and Sifu threw a piece of glass at the wall near my head. Go wash your face, I tell him. You look like a coal miner. He manages a weak smile. Tired, big brother. Tired is good, I say, putting away my files. Tired means you worked. If you aren't tired, you're stealing the boss's money. It is a joke, but only half of one. I walk to the back of the shop where the sink is. The water from the tap is warm, heated by the pipes running along the exterior wall in the sun. I scrub my hands with coarse soap, trying to get the smell of the day off me. It never really leaves. The smell of the workshop is in my pores. I change out of my work shirt and into a fresh one I brought with me. It feels cool and crisp, a luxury. Sifu is the last to stop. He extinguishes his burner, and the sudden absence of the roaring hiss is startling. The room feels instantly smaller, quieter. He stands there for a moment, looking at the rack of finished tubes, glowing faintly in the twilight, even without electricity. Just ghost images of the work. Tomorrow, Sifu says, the Golden Dragon restaurant needs their main sign repaired. The dragon is broken. Big job. I'll prepare the 12mm ruby glass, I reply. 14mm, he corrects. Make it bold. He switches off the main overhead lights. We walk down the narrow, concrete staircase of the tenement building. The stairwell smells of frying fish and incense from the apartments on the lower floors. We pass neighbors carrying plastic bags of groceries, kids running up the stairs in school uniforms. We are descending from the factory into the home. We step out onto the street level. The humidity hits us again, but now it is different. It is the evening dampness, heavy with the exhaust of 10,000 buses. The sky above is a deep, bruised indigo. And then it happens. As if on a synchronized timer, the city ignites. Above us, the sign for the herbal tea shop buzzes to life, a vivid green. Across the street, the massive pawn shop sign flickers and stabilizes into a glowing bat shape of orange and yellow. Farther down Nathan Road, the vertical signs for the nightclubs, the saunas, the restaurants, and the jewelers all wake up. Red, blue, turquoise, magenta. The gray concrete of Hong Kong disappears, masked by the electric jewelry we have created. I look up at a sign 3 floors up, a tailor shop. I bent that sign 2 years ago. I remember the S gave me trouble. I see the slight imperfection in the bottom curve, something no one else would notice, but I see it. It glows steady and bright. People push past us on the sidewalk, rushing to dinner, to movies, to dates. They walk under the lights, their faces bathed in the artificial glow. They do not look up. They do not see the glass, the wires, the electrodes. They do not know about the heat of the burner or the taste of the blow hose. They only see the light. I light a cigarette and take a deep drag. My hands are still shaking slightly, a low-level vibration that won't stop until I've had a beer. Hungry? Akyung asks, standing beside me. Starving, I say. Let's go. I know a place with good clay pot rice. Under the new sign we put up last week. We walk into the crowd, 3 shadows merging into the neon flood. The workday is over, but the work itself, the light, is just beginning its shift. The gas burner dies with a soft pop, plunging my workbench into a sudden gray gloom. For 10 hours, the blue cone of the flame has been the only thing in my world, a roaring focal point that seared retinas and warmed the skin of my face until it felt tight and dry like parchment. Now the silence of the shop rushes in to fill the void. My ears ring, a high-pitched phantom frequency left behind by the constant hiss of the air and gas mixture. I place the last tube of the day onto the asbestos racking. It is a complex curve, a double back loop that will form the character for happiness in a pawn shop sign. The glass is cooling, turning from a pliable, living syrup back into a brittle solid. I wipe my hands on my trousers. They are stained with carbon soot and the invisible, chalky residue of fluorescent powder. My fingertips are numb, the calluses thick enough to strike a match on, yet they throb with a dull, rhythmic ache. It is 7 in the evening. The workshop, a narrow concrete box tucked into the ground floor of a tenement in Yau Ma Tei, smells of ozone, burnt dust, and the sharp, metallic tang of mercury. Master Lao is already sitting by the entrance, his silhouette framed by the metal accordion gate. He is smoking a cigarette, the smoke drifting up to mingle with the dust motes dancing in the light of a single naked bulb. I begin the ritual of shutdown. I check the valves on the gas cylinders, tightening them until the brass squeaks. I sweep the shards of broken glass from the floor, the debris of my mistakes and trimmings tinkling into the dustpan. Every movement is slow. The adrenaline that fuels the bending process, the fear of the glass cracking or collapsing, has evaporated, leaving behind a heavy, leaden exhaustion. I wash my hands at the single tap in the corner. The water is tepid and smells faintly of chlorine. I scrub with a block of coarse yellow soap, watching the gray suds swirl down the drain. It takes 3 lathers to remove the worst of the grime, but the black lines under my fingernails are permanent, a tattoo of the trade. "Good night, Master Lau," I say. He nods without turning, his eyes fixed on the street outside. I step out of the shop, and the humidity hits me like a physical weight. Hong Kong in the evening is a wet, heavy blanket. The air is thick with the exhaust of thousands of vehicles and the steam of 1,000,000 rice cookers. But it is the light that dominates. This is the hour of my labor's fruition. As I walk down Shanghai Street, the city is burning with cold fire. Above me, extending horizontally from the buildings, like the branches of a chaotic, electric forest, are the signs. I stop for a moment to light a cigarette, shielding the flame with a cupped hand. I look up. There, 3 stories up, is the sign I bent 2 weeks ago for the Golden Dragon restaurant. It is massive. The border is a chasing pattern of argon blue, flickering in a simulated motion, while the characters themselves burn with the intense, deep ruby of pure neon gas in clear glass. It buzzes, if you listen closely, under the roar of the double-decker buses and the red Toyota taxis. You can hear the city humming. It is the sound of high-voltage transformers kicking current through rarefied gas. I know the flaw in that sign. The 3rd stroke of the dragon character is slightly too thick. A hesitation in my breath when I blew into the tube. But from here, amidst the visual cacophony of Nathan Road, it looks perfect. It washes the pavement in a bloody glow. My commute is a walk and a bus ride. I navigate the obstacle course of the sidewalk. Hawkers have spread their wares on plastic sheets, cheap transistor radios, pirated cassette tapes, piles of plastic toys. The smell of stinky tofu wafts from a street corner, a pungent, rot-like odor that makes my stomach grumble in anticipation. I dodge a bamboo pole carrying dripping wet laundry, hung precariously low from an overhead balcony. I reach the bus stop and wait. A Daimler bus, its beige paint peeling, rattles to a halt. I squeeze on, paying the fare and pushing my way to the upper deck. The air inside is stagnant, smelling of sweat and hair oil. I find a seat near the window. As the bus lurches forward, grinding gears, I lean my head against the vibrating glass. We pass the Prince Edward district. The neon signs blur into streaks of color, emerald green from the jewelry shops, peach pink from the saunas, harsh white from the fluorescent tubes of the herbal tea stands. I get off at Sham Shui Po. The crowd here is denser, the noise louder. This is a working class hive. I stop at a roast meat stall, the window displaying ducks and strips of char, siu hanging from hooks, dripping honey glaze into metal trays. I buy a small box of roast pork, the butcher chopping it with a heavy cleaver on a tree trunk block, the rhythm fast and violent. Thwack, thwack, thwack. He scoops the meat into a wax paper box. It is a treat for the family. My building is a Tong Lao, a tenement walk-up. The paint on the exterior is flaking, revealing the gray concrete bones beneath. The entrance is a dark mouth next to a hardware store. There is no elevator. I live on the 6th floor. The climb is the final trial of the day. The stairwell is narrow, lit by low wattage bulbs that cast long, jumping shadows. The air gets hotter as I ascend, heat rising from the floors below. I pass open doors protected by metal gates, offering glimpses into other lives. A grandmother watching a black and white television. A group of men playing mahjong. The clatter of the plastic tiles echoing off the concrete walls. The smell of dinner changes with every landing. Fried dace with black beans on the 2nd floor. Medicinal soup on the 3rd. The sharp tang of vinegar on the 4th. I reach my door. It is painted a lucky red, though the paint is scratched near the keyhole. I unlock the metal gate, then the wooden door. I am home. The flat is 300 square feet. It houses my wife, my 2 children, and my mother. It is divided by plywood partitions and curtains. The main room serves as the living room, dining room, and my children's bedroom. The air is still and warm, despite the rattling electric fan in the corner. My wife, Ah Ling, looks up from the small gas stove in the kitchen niche. The kitchen is barely a room, just a tiled corner with a sink and a 2-burner stove. Steam rises from a pot. "You are back," she says. It is not a question, but an acknowledgement. She looks tired. Her hair is pulled back in a tight bun, and she wears a floral samfu that has faded from countless washes. I take off my shoes and swap them for plastic slippers. My feet ache as the arch support is removed. I hand her the box of roast pork. "You spent money," she says, clicking her tongue, but her eyes soften. The children, a boy of 8 and a girl of 6, are doing their homework at the folding table. They mumble a greeting, their eyes barely leaving their exercise books. Education is the escape route. We do not disturb them until the rice is ready. I go to the small washroom to splash water on my face. It is a wet room, the toilet and the shower sharing the same square meter of tiled space. There is a red plastic bucket filled with water under the tap. The water supply is inconsistent, sometimes shut off for hours during the dry season, so we hoard it when we can. The water feels cool on my neck. I strip off my work shirt, smelling the sweat and the metallic workshop scent clinging to the fabric. I put on a loose white vest and a pair of drawstring shorts. Dinner is served. I unfold the legs of the table, locking them into place. We sit on round metal stools. The meal is simple but filling. A metal dish of steamed pork patty with salted fish, the smell pungent and savory. A plate of boiled choy sum, glistening with oyster sauce. The roast pork I bought adds a luxurious redness to the table. And rice, a large mound of it, scooped from the national brand rice cooker that sits on the floor. We eat with purpose. Conversation is sparse. The radio is playing in the background. A drama about a feud between two martial arts clans. The narrator's voice is dramatic, rising and falling with the action. Eat more meat, I tell my son, placing a piece of char siu in his bowl. You need to grow. He nods, shoveling rice into his mouth with his chopsticks. My mother sits in the corner, eating slowly. Her teeth are bad. She complains about the heat, about the price of vegetables, about the noise from the neighbors. I nod and make agreeing noises. It is the soundtrack of the evening. After dinner, the table is wiped down and folded away. The room transforms. It is now leisure time. My wife washes the dishes, the clinking of porcelain providing a domestic rhythm. I sit in the cane chair near the window. I open the metal lattice and lean out. The air outside is slightly cooler than the stagnant air inside. I light a cigarette, a Hilton. The smoke curls out into the night. Below, the street is still alive. It never really stops. But up here, there is a sense of detachment. I can see the glow of the city reflecting off the low clouds. Somewhere out there, my signs are burning. I think about the tube I bent today, the happiness character. I wonder if the neon gas will hold its color, or if I didn't purge the impurities out of the glass well enough. If it turns dull in a month, the boss will dock my pay. My daughter comes to stand by my knee. Dada, look, she says, holding up a drawing. It is a picture of a flower. It is beautiful, I say. Ah Ling finishes the dishes and joins us. She turns on the television. It is a small box, 12 inches. We get 2 channels. Tonight, Enjoy Yourself Tonight is on. It is a variety show, full of skits and songs. The whole building seems to be watching it. I can hear the same tinny laughter track echoing from the open windows of the flats above and below us. We watch together. For an hour, we are not in a cramped tenement, in Sham Shui Po. We are laughing at a comedian in a shiny suit. It is a collective hallucination, a necessary release valve for the pressure of the city. At 9:30, the children must sleep. Their bed is a bunk bed screened off by a curtain. They climb up, complaining about the heat. Ah Ling sets up the mosquito coil. She lights the green spiral, and a thin ribbon of fragrant, acrid smoke begins to rise. It is the smell of safety, of protection from the dengue fever that lurks in the stagnant water of the alleyways. I stay up a little longer. I have one more chore. I take my work shirt and trousers to the washroom. I soak them in the bucket with detergent. I scrub them by hand, the water turning gray. I wring them out, my forearms bunching, the muscles complaining. I hang them on a bamboo pole that I thread through the iron loops outside the window. They will be dry by morning, stiff and smelling of the city air. The television station signs off. The national anthem plays, followed by a static hiss. Ah Ling turns it off. We prepare for sleep. Our bed is a bamboo mat laid out on the floor of the main room. A mattress would be too hot, too soft. The bamboo remains cool against the skin, allowing air to circulate. We use hard pillows filled with buckwheat husks. I lie down. The light is turned off, but the room is never truly dark. The streetlights and the glow of the neon signs filter through the curtains, casting long, shifting rectangles of orange and blue across the ceiling. The sounds of the building settle. The shouting has died down, replaced by the low murmur of private conversations, the coughing of an old man next door, the flush of a toilet. The humidity is high. I lie still, trying not to sweat. The fan oscillates, sweeping a brief breeze over us every 10 seconds. It clicks rhythmically. Click whir, click whir. My wife breathes deeply beside me. She is asleep already. I close my eyes. Behind my eyelids, I still see the blue flame. I see the glass melting, becoming soft, waiting for my breath to give it shape. I flex my hands in the dark. They are stiff. Tomorrow, there is a rush order for a nightclub in Sim Shatsui. Pink and purple tubing. Complex script. I drift. The noise of a jet engine roars overhead. A plane descending into Kai Tak Airport. It is so loud the windows rattle in their frames. It passes, leaving a vacuum of sound. I am a bender of light. I twist glass into words. I turn gas into fire. The city hums outside, a giant machine that feeds on our labor and breathes out light. I let the hum carry me. The bamboo is cool on my back. The smell of the mosquito coil is sharp in my nose. I sleep